All right, everybody, let's talk about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I had some critical things to say in my out of the theater reaction, and those are my honest thoughts and feelings coming out of the theater. As I left the theater, the thing that was the most on my mind at that moment was the ending of the movie, which I did find very disappointing and unsatisfying. But I've had a little bit of time to gather my thoughts, and I have a lot to say about this movie, and the vast majority of it is very positive. First off, the animation. I really loved. Oh, and before I get into it, I will be speaking about some spoilers in this review, just generally talking about the movie itself. And so this is more of a conversation to hear my opinion for those who've already seen the movie. If you haven't seen the movie and you still want to watch the video, go right ahead. But I recommend seeing the movie so that you don't get anything spoiled for you if that is something you are concerned about. So, okay. The first movie blew me away when it came to the animation. I had never seen anything like it. They took the medium to a new level by making an animated movie feel like a comic book. They did not shy away from that again this time. The Miles Morales world, and this is a multiverse movie, so the Miles Morales world is the comic book world. You got the dots in the coloring, you have just the words that pop up on the screen, and it really feels like a comic book. I mean, the whole thing felt like a comic book for the most part. But they really took it up a notch. They really took it to the next level, because every time the characters jump from one universe to the next, and that was going on a lot in this movie, it was a new animation style. And I'm talking about drastically different animation styles that are happening there, including there was a Lego Spider-Man universe. Not only that, but the movie came into live action, okay? We came into the Venom universe, and we sort of touched on the MCU as well. We'll get into that a little bit more later, but man, like, it was just a visual roller coaster. It was an experience to watch. And I found that personally quite enjoyable. And just the different characters, when they come together, they still maintain the artistic styling of their universe, but they're all in one place, and it doesn't feel weird. Even live action characters, along with animation. Now, I'm not talking about Mary Poppins or Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I'm talking about live action characters amongst various styles of drawings, of art. I mean, man, this movie was a work of art. I don't think you can really describe it as anything else, right? And remember, I haven't started talking about story. I haven't started talking about plot. I'm just talking about the movie. The experience of watching it was like experiencing an art piece. Not just the drawings, but just everything. Just the animation, how they conveyed action in the different worlds. And I mean, it had all the things you'd expect from a comic book. It had the lightning bolts going over their head when they feel, when a Spider-Man feels the spider sense, and just thwip coming, off of the hand. Like it just had that feeling the whole way through. And yeah, I mean, I thought it was, it's setting the bar. This movie can't be done in any other medium. I mean, you can't do it in live action, because this was a live action movie also. Just briefly, a few scenes, but it was also a live action movie. And you can't just do it in just CGI realistic looking characters. Like, this movie needed to be what it was. It needed to be animated, and it didn't feel cartoony. It didn't feel childish, right? I know there's still some people out there who just don't want to bother seeing an animated movie. Both Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse transcend their medium. They transcend the genre. These are heartfelt stories. They are adult themes. It's beautiful. It's well acted. It's worth the watch, in my opinion. And that's coming from someone who, besides some Pixar movies I have a fondness for, I generally am not that into animated movies. And I mean, this was, like I said, it was a ride. It was a ride to watch this thing. All right, well, let's talk about the story itself. And again, I want to start with talking about the good things. Well, I think one of the strongest themes in this movie was that of parenthood. And I myself am a parent. I have 4 children, Kenai and Ara, and I really felt connected with the parents and the kids. Like, I was able to identify with the parents and the teenage children at the same time while watching this movie. You know, especially, well, Jefferson Davis, I guess, is the name of Miles Morales' father, but they called him Captain Morales. So I guess, did he take on his wife's last name in this universe? If that happened in Into the Spider-Verse, it's been actually a couple years since I've seen it, so maybe that did happen. But they were calling him Captain Morales, so I don't know if he's still. We'll just say Jefferson. You know, Jeff. Man, I felt his pain as a father, really trying to do what he felt was right for his kid, having no idea what his kid is going through. And it's not his fault, because his kid isn't telling him what he's going through. He's not communicating. And Jeff starts to feel desperate. And he doesn't know how to communicate. And he ends up yelling at Miles, punishing Miles. But he's doing it out of love. And you know, Miles probably can't see that, right? It seems like, why is his dad being so hard on him? But his dad doesn't know what else to do, because all he sees is his son is just going off all the time, away from home, staying out late, shirking his responsibilities, not being at important meetings when he's supposed to be there, just being late to everything. And you know, what's going on with this kid? And furthermore, he tries to talk to him, and Miles acts like, oh, well, you know, like, I'm not going to talk to you. I'm dealing with something you couldn't possibly understand. Now, as a father, I mean, we hear that sort of thing from our kids. You can't possibly understand what it's like. Well, I mean, we were there too, right? We've been teenagers. You know, I have a 16-year-old son. Miles Morales is 15 years old in this movie, okay? I remember what it was like to be 15 and 16 years old. And when my son acts like I can't possibly know what he's going through, you know, I find that a little offensive, you know? I mean, I've been there. You know, he doesn't know everything about me, but maybe he should give me a chance to try to connect with him, to try to help him, to help guide him through this, but he just wants to do everything on his own. I know that feeling that Jeff was feeling. The difference is that Jeff really doesn't know what Miles is going through. How could he possibly? Like, he has absolutely no clue. But he still wants to be a father if only Miles would tell him. If only Miles would connect, right? And I don't know if I would have felt that way before I was a father. But as a father, you know, I want Miles to talk to his dad. He'll understand. Maybe not at first, and maybe he'll be mad. But you know what? Just because he's mad doesn't mean he doesn't love him, right? Just because he's angry doesn't mean that it wasn't worthwhile, because people need to process their emotions, you know? And Jeff sort of comes across as sort of like a macho dude, you know? I don't want you to look at me when I'm feeling upset. I need to keep control of the situation. I mean, he's a cop after all. But But really, I mean, man, I mean, look at how I'm talking about a cartoon, okay? And the mother, right? There is a scene in this movie where Miles talks to his mom after he's been grounded. And man, that was just, I felt that too. And like the performances there were so good. And just, it really, the movie just kind of slowed down and it allowed the drama to happen. I mean, just the action, the drama, the comedy. It just really had so much. Another thing I really liked about the movie, the villain. Okay, so we have this villain that is sympathetic and silly at the beginning of the movie. You know, he's never robbed anyone before. You see him at the beginning of his villainy. And you understand why he's a villain. Simply because, like, he's deformed now and his family doesn't really want to have anything to do with him. And he's just going through hard times. And he just basically just gets angry at the world and says, you know, I'm going to take my depression out on just, I'm going to rob this convenience store because I need money, I need to live, and no one wants to help me. But at the same time, he's funny, he's fumbling around, he's got powers that are really inconvenient for him. He's Spot, right? He has these dots all over his body, and that's his skin. He has just all white skin, he has no face. He has no face, he just has dots, and these dots are like holes, and these holes can go from one place to another, so he can essentially teleport to wherever he wants to go through these dots in his body, okay? And that leads to a lot of humor, right? But throughout the movie, he like levels up and becomes a serious threat to the multiverse because it turns out he can use these dots to travel from one universe to the next. And, you know, I found that really interesting because, you know, it sort of had it reminded me just a tad bit, but in a positive way, to Electro in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Now, I didn't love The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and I didn't love the character of Electro, but Electro had that quality of, I just want everyone to notice me. I just want everyone to recognize me and acknowledge me. That's really how the Spot was feeling in this. It was similar, but I think it was executed a little bit better. Spider-Man he blames Spider-Man for him becoming what he is, and so he sees Spider-Man as his arch nemesis. And when Miles meets him and basically is like, you're just a villain of the week. I don't, you know, I'm just going to deal with you and move on with my life. I mean, that's devastating to this guy. And so he dedicates his life to wanting to become more powerful because he wants to be respected as a villain. And, you know, I mean, it's an idea that's been, you know, done before in other movies. It's not anything incredibly original there, but just the way that they did it was, I felt very interesting because he was funny and he's silly and he trips over himself, but then also you're like, this guy's pretty dangerous. Like, he kind of needs to be stopped for his own good. He's going to hurt himself too, you know, and basically destroy the multiverse. And then it gets real menacing towards the end when he just levels up and just wants to just commit murders. And he wants to murder Miles' family. And then it gets real serious because he's not just robbing ATMs anymore. He's now like really wanting to hurt Miles Morales specifically. Right. So the other main antagonist in this movie, I wouldn't say villain, I would say antagonist, is the character of Miguel O'Hara, who is the Spider-Man from the future who doesn't want to destroy the multiverse and puts together this team of Spider-Men of all shapes and sizes to basically save the multiverse. It brings up this idea, this new theme, right? Of what does it mean to be Spider-Man? What does it mean to sacrifice? And does the difficult events in our life actually shape who we are? And are they important? Every Spider-Man experiences loss of some sort, right? And it's more than one type of loss. Spider-Men lose their uncles, right? Peter Parker loses Uncle Ben, and Miles Morales loses his Uncle Aaron. Spider-Men also lose the police captain who they team up with. Peter Parker loses Captain Stacy. Well, Miles Morales is supposed to lose Captain Morales. You know, Jefferson, his father, who's a police captain, or who was about to be a police captain. And it's a canon event. It's set in stone. This needs to happen, or everything will unravel. So says Miguel O'Hara. Can Miles Morales just hear this information and sit there and let his father be killed and not save him? On one hand, not experiencing this loss removes a key component of being Spider-Man. Spider-Man is forged through suffering. On the other hand, if you don't save someone that you are capable of saving, if you have that great power, but you don't take on that responsibility, then you're not Spider-Man. He has to save his father. He has to. He doesn't know how to do anything else. He cannot give up. It's not in his nature. And what we learn is we say in his nature, I'm talking about Spider-Man's nature. Now, Miles Morales, it's not in Miles Morales' nature either. But one thing I feel like we learn in this movie is that Spider-Man is an idea, not a person, right? There are so many different Spider-Men, okay? There's Peter Parker. There's Miles Morales. There's the version where Gwen Stacy gets bit by the spider instead of Peter Parker, and she wears a white suit and becomes Spider-Woman, right? But for her, great power comes great responsibility. There's Peter Porker. There's apparently a Tyrannosaurus Rex Spider-Man. There's a cat Spider-Man. There's Lego Spider-Man. There's Spider-Man from India, who's a completely different person than Peter Parker, Miles Morales, or Gwen Stacy. Just a whole new person in India. He uses yo-yos instead of webs, which I think is awesome. I really love that character, and I like to yo-yo myself, and I thought it was really cool to see yo-yos used in that way. I would love to use, I use my yo-yo, and you do like, you throw it out, and sometimes I try to turn my hand like this before I bring it back just to pretend like I'm shooting a web. I'm kind of nerdy like that because I love Spider-Man so much. It's been my favorite superhero since I was a kid. Really, like, Spider-Man and then Batman. Yeah. But I mean, I really like that character. I'd love to see more of the Spider-Man India. You have you have Penny Parker, who's a kid with a robot, doesn't even have spider powers seemingly, but all of them share the same idea. They're still Spider-Man, right? They are all bound by this mission. And they don't say it specifically in this movie, but we all know what that is. I mean, wow, like one of the greatest lines, like something that just summarizes an entire character, and everything about that character gets summed up by one line that is said in a comic book, that is said in almost every iteration. With great power, there must also come great responsibility. I mean, sum up your entire concept of a character in one line, why don't you? I mean, that's Spider-Man. Spider-Man has a responsibility to the multiverse. Spider-Man has a responsibility in this case to his father. What's he going to do? Now, Miguel O'Hara, he feels his responsibility to maintaining the canon, to fixing the things that got broken by multiverse travel. And we learn a big reveal. We learn that Miles Morales was never supposed to be Spider-Man. In his universe, Spider-Man, there's one Spider-Man in every universe. That spider could bite anybody. It's not just Peter Parker. Peter Parker happened to be in the right place at the right time, or the wrong place at the wrong time, however, depending on your perspective of it. Peter Parker happened to be the guy that got bit, and in most universes, it happens to be Peter Parker, but that's just the story we all know best. There are so many other iterations where that spider ended up somewhere else and ends up biting someone else, and that person still becomes Spider-Man. There is a Spider-Man in every universe. Miles Morales' universe already had a Spider-Man, and that was Peter Parker. But the Spot, we find out, the villain of this movie, working on some sort of multiversal travel, goes to a universe where that spider has not yet bit their intended target, and brought it back into the universe of Miles Morales. And so what happens is there's now a second spider, a spider from another dimension. That's the spider that bites Miles Morales. So does Miles Morales even belong there? There was a bunch of Peter Parkers. There wasn't a bunch of Miles Moraleses. Not that I saw. Does Miles Morales even belong in this world full of Spider-Men? Does he belong in the club of Spider-Men when they all get together? Well, Miguel O'Hara seems to not think so. But what can he do? The past is the past. He's not going to try to change the past necessarily, but he's trying to stop any more problems in the future. And the thing is that everything that Miles Morales does goes against canon in his world, because it was influenced by an alternate dimension. And now that dimension has no spider, so that dimension has no Spider-Man. That's a problem. But I don't know. That problem, that didn't seem to be fully fleshed out in the movie, to be honest. I didn't fully understand what the consequences of that were, except for Miguel just feeling like Miles didn't belong, and making Miles question whether or not he belonged as a Spider-Man. But the main thing is that the Spot was going after Miles' father, and that had to happen, according to Miguel. Why? I didn't catch it. I got to see the movie again. But it had to happen, according to Miguel, and so therefore Miles has to be kept at bay so he doesn't save his father. And Miguel is also Spider-Man, so Miguel feels that responsibility to stop Miles from doing something that he feels could harm the world. Now, he's very cynical and grumpy all the time, but Miles, it comes from a completely different perspective. Miles has to save his father. You can't say either of them are wrong. The only right thing in this situation is that Miles has to save his father and Miguel has to stop him, right? Or Miles has to try to save his father and Miguel has to try to stop him. They're both doing their responsibility. But of course, we're rooting for Miles here. At least I was rooting for Miles here, because I know that a solution can be found where not everything has to be bad, because this is a comic book movie. There are no limitations. There are no rules. Save everyone. Why can't you? Spider-Man's always being faced with this choice. Save the many or save the person you love, right? Spider-Man Spider-Man in 2002 had to deal with this same dilemma with the Green Goblin, and he managed to save everyone. So I know that Miles Morales can save everyone, but we don't get to see it because the movie just ends. Okay, we'll get to that, my feelings on that. Moving on to the next topic. So I'm gushing over this movie, obviously. So let's talk about a few things. Oh, wait, before we go on to things that I wasn't so happy about, let's talk about some of the fun stuff. The cameos, the Easter eggs. Man, this movie is chock full of them. I really think this movie should be seen on streaming, really. I mean, I know most of the time I'm like, oh, you got to see this in the theaters. I don't really feel that way for this one. I feel like this movie is better when you can, like, pause it and just see what's going on, you know? Also, like, I need to see this movie more than once, you know? All of my criticisms that I'm about to talk about, I think will go away when I, like, know what to expect. Like, I was surprised by the movie in a few different ways that I didn't like. But now I'm not surprised, right? If I saw the movie again, it won't hit me by surprise, and I can just enjoy it more, right? I think this movie will get better on the second and third watch. I really do, because there's so much to miss. I mean, how much stuff did I not see? I couldn't possibly see it all. I mean, it went by too fast. But there were so many of them. And one of them I thought was just the best, okay? And that is when the Spot goes into the Venom world and we meet the woman who works at the convenience store that Eddie Brock goes to and Venom goes to. That woman who's seen it all and is fazed by nothing. You know, the completely unbothered woman sees a portal open up and a cartoon comes out of it, and she's just like, what do you want? And he's like, aren't you, like, gonna react to this? And she's like, yeah, whatever. Like, she's seen it all before. Like, she's seen some weird stuff. Nothing surprises her anymore. But oh man, but that was just so great. But here's the implications of that. The Spider-Verse. Now, there's no Spider-Man in the Venom movies. But the Venom movies are now officially, I think officially, I mean, it felt like that was what was happening here. They are a part of the overarching Spider-Verse. And we know that Venom went on a vacation into the MCU. There's another live-action cameo. And that cameo was of Aaron Davis, the Prowler, okay, played by Donald Glover, who was a character from Spider-Man Homecoming. That's MCU. Now, was this that exact guy from the MCU? No, but there's a version of the Prowler who is Donald Glover. And then when we had Spider-Man No Way Home bring in the Spider-Man from Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, showing that there is a Spider-Verse that connects with the MCU multiverse. Well, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield cameoed in this movie, like the real them, not cartoon versions of them, but live action them cameoed in this movie briefly. It wasn't No Way Home, okay? It wasn't No Way Home. Brief cameo, you know, scenes from their movies essentially. I don't think they even came in and shot anything. Just Sony owns the footage, so scenes from those movies. But it's all connected in this grand Spider-Verse. The cartoon version, the Lego version, heck, the comic book version, and it touches the MCU, but I don't think it's a part of the MCU. What I feel is going on here, and I have no basis on this, this is going to be whatever they decide, but you know, you have Sony and you have Marvel and Disney. I don't know how they're really thinking about this, but I feel like there's two multiverses here. There is the MCU multiverse. that MCU multiverse is filled with Marvel What If. Those stories, which were also animated, by the way, those stories there. It's Multiverse of Madness and the stuff that happened there. And it is Spider-Man No Way Home. Well, no, not Spider-Man No Way Home. Multiverse of Madness, Loki, What If. That's the Marvel multiverse. But there's also a Spider-Verse. And I feel that what we saw in No Way Home was not the Marvel multiverse, but the Spider-Verse touching the Marvel multiverse. Now you can say it's all part of one big multiverse, okay, sure. But I feel like Tom Holland did not make a cameo, but Tom Holland is a part of the Spider-Verse. Every incarnation of Spider-Man that there ever was or ever will be is part of the Spider-Verse. It just so happens that in addition to being part of the Spider-Verse, Tom Holland's character, his Peter Parker, is also part of the Marvel multiverse. And it touches. It's a Venn diagram with Tom Holland's Peter Parker in the middle. And I don't know, I just felt like, I just felt giddy about that, really. I just got excited about that. Just like, oh man, like it's all connected. Like there's no conflict at all. I understand. I can have any version of Spider-Man I want. And it can all happen at the same time. And I don't even care. I'm not even like, we're talking about the canon. What is canon anymore? Just give me whatever. Tell me a story. Tell me a good story. I want to see it, you know? And I know that, DC is sort of having, some conversations in that realm as well. But I really dug the cameos. I thought they were funny. I thought they were well placed. All right. Now we can get into stuff that I didn't think was perfect about this movie. Pacing. Okay, so I thought the pacing was a little weird at times. I felt the movie, although there's some scenes I loved when they slowed down, I felt the movie dragged a bit. I felt the movie repeated itself quite a bit. For example, the movie starts with Gwen Stacy giving Miles Morales' backstory. Now, I know it's like a thing where whenever they introduce a new version of Spider-Man, they do, all right, we're going to do this one more time. I got bit by a spider, right? They do that, I'm going to do this. We're going to tell our origin story real quick. It's the same story you all know, but there's little details because I'm a little bit different, and so you're going to hear it, and that's just the style of these movies. Okay. But when Gwen Stacy was doing hers, she told Miles. She said Miles Morales was bit by a spider, okay. And we have the entire prologue of the movie prior to the opening credits, all following Gwen Stacy, and we sort of needed to know how much Gwen cares about Miles and how much she misses him, maybe loves him. We need to know that. Like, it was valuable to have that. But then, after the credits, when we get basically taken out of Gwen's story and plopped into Miles' story once again, he tells his story again, but we already heard it, and like we already know. We saw the other movie also. Like, it was unnecessary and in my opinion, kind of annoying, right? I was kind of like, do we really need to hear this again? Like, I'm waiting for this movie to start, and it feels like it's just been like a half hour, and the movie still hasn't started yet. Now, like again, I gushed over the movie for a long time now. And so now I'm going to be a little bit more critical, but I'm going to share my feelings, right? And my feelings could change when I see the movie a second or third time. I hope they do. For the better. But, like, I didn't want to see it again. I didn't want to hear it again. I know the story. Like, it's no longer, like, it's meta, but it's meta. The meta wears off. It stops being funny. Oh, you've heard this story a bunch of times. We're going to tell it to you again. All right, that's cute in the first movie. And now it's like, I've heard this story a bunch of times. I don't want you to tell it to me again. So yeah, that bothered me. Also, it's like, who's the main character of this movie, right? I mean, seemingly it's Miles Morales, right? You would think it is. I mean, he's the protagonist in the first one. the trailers, show that the main story is all about Miles Morales and the villain that he created, that also created him, and his is he going to save his father? Like, that's the main part of the movie. However, like, they spent a lot of time making you believe that Gwen Stacy is the main character of the movie. But then they take you out of that and then they focus on Miles. And when they do, you say, okay, so we had Gwen Stacy, but now we're dealing with Miles. And I'm waiting for his character arc to happen. I'm waiting for there to be a beginning, a middle, and an end about Miles's journey, about the lessons he has to learn, about the struggles he has to face. And we don't get that. It comes to the end of the movie, and it's like, oh, like, is he going to save his father? And to be continued, like this is some sort of Flash Gordon episode. I'm not watching a weekly serial TV show. I'm not watching Flash Gordon where he's going to be hanging off a cliff. I want to see a movie with a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I'm totally okay with teasing the next one, but this wasn't a teaser. And I'm okay with a part 1 and a part 2, as long as part 1 is a story complete and unto itself. And part 2 is a story complete and unto itself with arcs. But when you put them together, it's one big story. I'm fine with that. But I want to leave the movie satisfied. And when I was leaving that movie thinking that Miles Morales is the main character of this movie, and his arc was left unfinished, I was very unsatisfied. But then I was thinking about this movie a little bit more, and I realized the first character they introduce here is Gwen. She gave the narration. This movie is a large part told through her eyes. And if I see it that way, I realize there's a complete movie in there about Gwen. About Gwen dealing with not having any friends and not being able to be with the person that she cares about, and having to keep secrets from her dad, and her dad basically hunting Spider-Woman. And, she can't tell him because he wants to arrest her. So she feels so alone. He finds out. And now that he finds out, he doesn't know how to react. He doesn't know how to respond. He has responsibilities as a cop. He has responsibilities as a father. What is he going to do? So he starts to put Gwen under arrest, because what is he going to do? And he's heartbroken. He's heartbroken and he's devastated. Gwen runs away. She's gone for months. And she goes on this journey where she sees Miles, and she sees Miles's relationship with his parents. And he wants to tell his parents the truth. He doesn't want to hide from them anymore, and she talks him out of it. And she goes and she meets Miguel O'Hara, and she becomes a part of that group where they're like, well, this is how it's got to be for Spider-Man. Spider-Men don't get families. Right? But then, Peter B. Parker from the first movie, well, he married Mary Jane apparently and has a daughter. He has a family. He's doing it all. Miles Morales is like, forget the canon. I'm going to save my father, and I'm going to tell them the truth. And Gwen learns, like, you need your loved ones, and your family is there for you, and family is everything. And when she is sent against her will back home, and she has to face her father, and there's a resolution there, because she learns that her father loves her very much and missed her very much. And at the end of the day, he gave up his career in order to protect his daughter, because his responsibilities as a father came before his responsibilities as a cop. And he didn't know the answer, which was going to be most important in the moment. He didn't have time to process his emotions. But later on, when he felt what it was like to be without his daughter, he realized that all he wanted to do was protect her, as a father should. And she gave him this hug. That was the emotional resolution of this movie about Gwen Stacy that was hiding in this movie about Miles Morales. And frankly, that was a better movie. Now, the Miles Morales movie is not over. The Miles Morales movie is going to be a better movie, I'm sure, once it's done, but it's not done yet. So I got to see, I got to watch half a movie, and then the power went out, essentially. That's what it felt like. I was just getting to the good part, and it just ends. You know, you gotta finish the movie. But when I look at it from Gwen Stacy's point of view, I do have a complete story there. It just, the pacing of it was just confusing which characters we're really following emotionally. I mean, we're trying to follow all of them. And that aspect of this movie didn't work for me as well as it worked for many other people. That aspect of this movie left me leaving that theater feeling unsatisfied with what I had just watched. And that is a very unfortunate and disappointing thing to feel when you just came out of what could have been a really great movie. What all the other reviewers I saw on YouTube have been saying is one of the best movies ever, and I can't get there because it didn't feel like a complete movie to me. I can't feel like it's the best ever. I feel like it's incomplete. It's just like the Lord of the Rings. I mean, everyone's talking about how good, you know, Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring was. I mean, it didn't work for me. I mean, it was long and, you know, I was young, but that could have been part of it. But also, nothing happened. You know, I wanted to get to, like, you know, Return of the King. That's what I wanted to see, and I eventually saw it. And so now you get this 9-hour-long movie that you can watch if you want to, but most of it's boring. Okay, don't hate on me. I know there's probably a lot of people out there that love Lord of the Rings, you know? It's fine. But this Spider-Verse saga will grow on me over time when I have both of them, and I'm watching them back to back, and I'm enjoying that so much. I'm going to love it. I'm going to love it, I'm sure, because it has all the building blocks of a movie that I should love. Today, sitting here right now, I was left unsatisfied, but thoroughly enjoyed the movie while I was watching it. You know, didn't like the ending, but I was really engaged. I was really liking what was going on. I mentioned this in my out of the theater reaction. I really thought they took a lot of bold choices that didn't work for me 100%, but I really liked that they did it. And one of those was having text come on the screen to kind of give you context about what's going on. Like, this movie never once felt like anything other than a comic book movie, than a superhero movie, than a work of fiction. Okay? Most movies want you to get lost. They want you to suspend your disbelief and just get lost in this world. This movie doesn't. This movie is like, you are watching a movie, don't forget it. Forget your suspension of disbelief. Don't believe any of this. It doesn't make any sense. It's not real. Just have fun. But not in a turn off your brain and have fun. No, it's good. It's well done. But it just puts in your face, that there's an audience there watching. The movie knows that there's an audience watching. Not the characters in the movie, okay? It's not Deadpool meta. It's the movie itself breaks the fourth wall. With flashes of covers of comic books and the text on the screen. The movie itself breaks the fourth wall. And I just find those big swings like that just so necessary when we just get the same stuff over and over and over again. And some of that didn't work for me in the moment because the text just disappeared from the screen too fast. And I see the text and I'm like, something important I should read, and then it's gone. And then I'm distracted for several seconds being like, I wonder what that said. I wonder what I missed out on. Like, it took me out of the movie. Now, I think it was intended to take us out of the movie a little bit because it was reminding us we were in a movie. So that in and of itself takes us out. But I felt like that could have been executed a little bit better. But that's a nitpick because I am happy they did it. I am happy they tried. And they could improve it next time, keep it on the screen for longer, There's ways to fix that. But all right, this has gone on long enough. In conclusion, the movie had some structural issues that made me not love it as much as other people loved this movie. But I still thought it was fantastic. It was a work of art. I enjoyed watching it. I want to watch it again. I want to watch it on streaming where I can pause it and see all the Easter eggs. It's a roller coaster ride. It's a roller coaster ride of a movie. I am so happy that they made it. I am glad that this exists in the world. And I am sure that on a second and third watch, I will come to appreciate the things that bother me this time. I'll catch them better next time. I won't be blindsided by the ending next time. I will enjoy it more next time. But as of now, these are my thoughts. Have a great day. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, do all those things. This is the first movie I'm reviewing here, so I appreciate your support, and I'll see you next time.